Welcome back to the Charter Broadcast, brought to you by St. Xavier University. I'm Ruthie Polinsky, joined as always by Alex Shapiro, and special guest on this Wednesday, the man, the myth, Clay Harbor.
That's me. Applause, guys. Be here with you today. Got a lot to talk about, a lot going on in Bears world. Most of it isn't good, as we know, but there's still a ton to talk about, and I think we're going to figure it out here, what we need to do this organization turn in the right direction.
Okay,
solve all the problems.
We're gonna kick things off here, guys, with our Wednesday vibe check, because we've beaten this San Francisco game really into the ground at this point, and there's not a ton of new developments today. The Bears are not practicing on this Wednesday because it's the long week. They don't play till Monday night, so no new developments. Haven't really heard from that many people. We'll hear from Thomas Brown, Caleb Williams, all those people on Thursday. But today is just kind of going to be our vibe check. And we will continue our preview as well of potential head coaching candidates, but we're not going to give away who it is. Dun, 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 dun. Actually, it's probably going to be in the description of the podcast. So I will tell you, we will be previewing Mike Vrabel today. Okay, Alex Shapiro's done his research. He is ready to go. Clay and I have lots of questions and some potential thoughts on Mike Vrabel and his fit with the Chicago Bears organization. So without further ado, let's kick off our vibe check. This is my theme song, Clay.
There's the jingle. I was going to stop you if you didn't do the jingle to make sure you did the jingle. So I'm glad you just did it.
Okay. So there it is. And also the hands.
If you're watching on YouTube, the hands are critical. And if you're not watching on YouTube, watch it on YouTube. So you get the nice choreography.
So I think one of the major conversations after this game and all week long, guys, last week, we were talking about this interim bump, this Thomas Brown boost. It's going to look different. The players are talking different. Everyone's excited. There's a different energy around this team. They could not have looked worse in a lot of ways on Sunday and how they performed and came out on the field. So let's start things off. And I know we did a vibe check on Thomas Brown last week. I think it may differ this week. So I think it's interesting to compare and contrast. What is your vibe check, Alex Shapiro, on the state of Thomas Brown, his candidacy for this 5-game audition that is now down to 4 games? And what's the vibe?
I hate to say seen enough, but it's as close to seen enough as you can get. I think Thomas Brown had an uphill battle to be, a strong candidate for the head coaching job. Did he deserve an interview? Did he deserve some consideration? Yes, absolutely. Of course he did. That's why he's here. That's why he's put him in this position. But there's a reason many interim head coaches don't receive head coaching jobs. Antonio Pierce kind of bucked that trend, not working out with the Las Vegas Raiders. So I thought it was an uphill battle, but it was like, okay, let's see what he's got. Let's see if he can bring some juice. Let's see if the Bears finish strong, and then he's got a case. But now too many times we've seen just really slow starts in the first half for them to figure it out in the second half. And I got to say, a lot of the content of what I have heard in the press conferences sounds a lot like Matt Eberflus content. He delivers the message incredibly different, but the content kind of sounded the same to me over the past couple of days. It was a great week of practice. We just need to take that execution now to Sunday, things of that nature. Listen, we love what we're doing. We got to put the guys in a better position to succeed, but it's really an execution issue. We just got to execute better. A lot of that content sounded extremely similar. So again, does Thomas Brown deserve like a close eye for the last month? Yes, of course. They're all important data bites, but not the first impression you were hoping for.
Clay, what's your vibe on Thomas Brown?
Ruthie, as you know, on the Big Pro Football Show, I was very high on Thomas Brown, and I had him as my top candidate for the Bears head coaching position going into this offseason. Obviously, there's a lot of season left at that point. There was 5 games, and this is something that is fluid, ever-changing. How do you finish the season? See how he handles it. And I was a main proponent I thought this was a good idea. Let's give him the opportunity to be the head coach. in hindsight, looking back, I think maybe you keep him in the booth, you make him the offensive coordinator, and you keep things the same with him and Caleb Williams. Obviously, that's not what happened, and I thought you put too much on his plate. He didn't have enough time to really feel out the calling the plays from the field. If you watch Caleb Williams during his press conference, they asked him how the communication was, and Caleb Williams said all the right things, but if you watched it, he hesitated. You could see, he's doing a lot of different things now and such and such. Easy to tell the communication was different. It wasn't the same. He's figuring this out on the run, on the go. This guy was a passing game coordinator 5 weeks ago. Then he's an offensive coordinator. Now he's a head coach. The Bears were outgained 319 to 4 yards in the first half. 4 yards, Alex. Me, you, and Ruthie could go out there and be wide receiving crew and get 4 yards. I'm confident in that. I'm confident in you too, and I'm confident enough, yes, you, in myself, to think we could get 4 yards. The 49ers could have picked their score. And this isn't the 49ers that were in the Super Bowl. They could have won the Super Bowl with a couple of bad calls, whatever. This is a 49ers team coming off of 2 shellackings. The last 2 games, they were outscored 73-20. They're missing everybody. They're taking guys off the street to play football for them. This wasn't a great San Francisco 49er team, and they came out flat. You didn't get the head coaching bump. You got the new coach dump, and it wasn't good. And like you said, it started to sound an awful lot like Matt Eberflus. I still like Thomas Brown. I think if the Bears bring in a defensive-minded head coach, well, it'd be a good fit, a good system. Bring in, if you do go defensive-minded head coach, I think we're going to talk about that. A guy you could keep in the building to keep some symmetry there, to keep a guy that did have some success with Caleb, to keep a good offensive mind there. Maybe you keep Thomas Brown as an offensive coordinator, but the vibe check really went south for Thomas Brown, and I don't really see him as a viable head coaching candidate at this point unless he shows us something in these remaining 4 games.
Alex, I think
just real quick, I want to touch on the wide receiver core. And I do know how we get more than 4 yards together as a unit. Here's how it happens. Clay Harbor on the first play of the game gets a 6-yard reception. And then Ruthie and I are in the blue medical tent after that play because we have been blocked into eternity. So that's how. Clay catches the first pass. Ruthie and I are in the blue medical tent on IR the rest of the season. But we've done it in the Bears.
4 yards.
You know what? Yeah. Unless Clay's like blocking for me, just like paving the way.
Ruthie looks athletic, and I believe in you, Alex. You know your stuff, so you could find a way.
I appreciate that, Clay. That's completely not true. But my vibe check on Thomas Brown, I think, Alex, you really touched on it too, is that Thomas Brown was sort of thrown into an impossible situation. It's not his offense that he's calling in the first place. He is being handed a situation where he's being tasked to like, hey, fix this, and it's like only the most important draft pick arguably in Chicago Bears history, right? Like the quarterback needs help. So he started to trend in that direction in the Green Bay game, the Vikings game. And then they're like, and also the second half of the Lions game, but not the first half. And then they're like, hey, can you also be the head coach? And also worry about all the other things that are going on game day and all the other things happening during the week. And so guess what? When Eric Washington really struggles as defensive play caller, that's on you too, Thomas, now. So unfortunately, it's a very challenging situation for Thomas to consider this a quote unquote audition, because it's just really not ideal and he's being thrown a lot of adversity. Now, that being said, I do think there's room and time for that to change. I'm not like completely ruling this out. It'll be really interesting to see how this team responds. They didn't respond well to Matt Eberflus getting fired because you saw what happened on Sunday. But I do think there is time. If you can find a way to keep yourself in some of these games, you've given yourself a shot to at least interview and present why things would be different if this was your system. And I think that's going to be definitely a possibility for him down the road, depending on how things start to look. I will also say that I like Clay's, kind of idea of, let's see how the offense looks in a silo, in a vacuum. How does the offense look? Potentially, if you do bring in a Mike Vrabel, who I still think would probably want to bring in his own guys, but a Brian Flores, any sort of like defensive candidate, you bring in that guy and you're able to maybe find a way to say, hey, will you interview Thomas Brown to be your offensive coordinator, to the head coach? I think that's honestly sort of an ideal situation, because you're keeping some sort of consistency and there's a relationship there between not just Thomas Brown and Caleb Williams, but really the whole offense. And so Thomas Brown would probably want to bring in some of his own staff, even if he were offensive coordinator. He would change things. It'll be really interesting to see sort of how this thing closes. So I think my vibe last week was cautiously hopeful or something like that. My vibe now is disappointed, but optimistic.
I love it. I love
like
the
the guy.
continued
I like the
optimism.
guy. I like the guy. I like how he represents football. I like what he stands for. I like how he speaks to the media and to his team. And I like how the players talk about him. Like, I like it. You're rooting for him. Like, you want him to do well. So that's why I feel that way. Okay,
I'm with it.
great.
And I love your idea about asking him or asking the incoming defensive hypothetical head coach to keep him on as an OC. I think that could be a really nice fit. I think it goes great into our discussion coming up with Mike Vrabel, because who is his guy, Ruthie? I mean, we'll get to that. We're kind of putting the horse before the cart here a little bit here. But I kind of like your idea of, and again, like, how did the Bears respond to adversity under Matt Eberflus with the Hail Mary? Poorly, right? Went down the tubes. How do the Bears respond to adversity under Thomas Brown? Will it get better? Like, even though it was really gross for the first half of the Lions, for the first half of the 49ers, can he get his team to respond to adversity better than Matt Eberflus did? We'll see. That's why these data points are still important, even though I do think it's a wrap for his head coaching candidacy here. Important data points.
Let's move on to our.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's going to be a brutal. Playing in US Bank Stadium it's the loudest stadium I've ever played in, guys. He's going to be on the field. He's not used to that. Caleb's going to be trying to catch the play. It's going to be interesting. So let's be prepared for that.
Clay, did you play in US Bank Stadium, in the new US Bank Stadium? You played in there?
The new US Bank Stadium several times. You can't hear yourself think. It is so loud in there, and it's surprising because people like the Vikings fans. Yeah, you got the horn. Some dude dressed up like a Viking. Yeah, it's so loud. Whatever they did with
it's awesome.
The construction, it's just extremely loud on the field.
It's awesome. I covered the Super Bowl between the Patriots and the Eagles. You were Eagles and you were Patriots, actually, Clay, but I know you're an Eagles guy. I covered that Super Bowl there. Was awesome. I mean, that place is beautiful. A Kevin Warren stadium, dare I add. Let's get our vibe check. Moving on. We'll stick with the coaching staff for now. What's your vibe check on Eric Washington? Clay, why don't you go first?
All right, I think the vibe check on Eric Washington is not good, and obviously he was put in a tough position too. The guy hasn't called a play since 2018. That's a long. I was playing football back then. Okay, I mean, this is a long time ago, and you feel bad for him because guess who he's going up against, Alex? He's going up against the offense, which is ranked first in the NFL in pre-snap motion, right? So you got to make sure you are crystal clear on your defensive rules when you have a team that motions a lot. It's just got to go quick. You got to know it secondhand. You just got to know it firsthand, like you know the back of your hand, right? You put in a new defensive coordinator in that situation, going against Kyle Shanahan, even though they were missing Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Javon Hargrave, Dre Greenlaw, Nick Bosa, and everybody else, it's still a tough position. Trent Williams. It's still a tough position to put a defensive coordinator in. And he responded by giving up 11.9 yards per pass attempt. That's the third highest allowed by the Bears since 1990. Okay, that's how bad it was. It had me wanting to come back and play football, play tight end against the Bears, because they gave, I don't know if the stat's right, they gave up 151 yards to George Kittle, which is the most ever a Bears team has given up to a tight end. So to me, the vibe check for Eric Washington is not good. You are a veteran coach. You've been around. You've been the defensive coordinator. Obviously, you're not making the calls. Your D-line doesn't show up. You only get one sack. The coverage is awful. You got some of the guys turning down contact in the backfield, what it seems. Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards don't know how to pass off his own coverage all of a sudden with the tight end. One guy's stopping, the other guy's going, the other guy's going, the other guy's stopping. I don't know what's going on. You guys not know how to play zone coverage, and that's obviously what they play. There was hardly any man-to-man going on in this game. So all in all, it was just a terrible defensive showing. You couldn't stop the run. You have Isaac Guerrero, who averaging 3.7 yards after contact. DeAndre Swift only averaged 2.8 yards per carry. This guy's averaging more after contact than we averaged before for the entire carry. So overall, it was not a good showing for Eric Washington. And the vibe check to me is concerning.
Yeah.
Alex Shapiro?
Yeah, I agree. I'll go with like underprepared, and that's for the unit as a whole. And it's a little surprising because this is a guy who has been in this situation for a long time, right? The only thing that they put on his plate is play call, but he's been the defensive coordinator. And yes, I know like Flus had his fingerprints all over this bad boy, but Eric Washington was still having a major role in organizing this defense. And we saw some changes, right? We saw him dial up more blitzes because the front four isn't getting home. So what do? You got to try some things out to get some sort of pressure. He dials up blitzes. Doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And then I want to underline something you said that, when you watch it over, it was kind of wild to see how many times the Bears struggled to pass off coverage in zones. I mean, guys are getting wide open because they're just in the soft spot. And whether it's Kyler Gordon trying to hand off to a linebacker, or as you mentioned, the linebackers handing off to each other, Kevin Byard, down in the box, there were just so many miscommunications on the back end of that defense. It was like these guys are just simply not prepared right now to do these zone handoffs. So that was troubling.
My vibe check on Eric Washington was that it was very revealing what happened on Sunday. I think everyone can take a moment and maybe for just a second, we're missing Matt Eberflus, right? Like this guy is an elite defensive play caller. And one of the things that he was so good at was stopping teams in the red zone, making them settle for field goals. And that bend don't break was keeping the Bears in games when their offense was starting slow. When you have a defensive play caller who can adjust, inexperienced, and the players didn't really show up either. Like there were just it was poor effort on a lot of plays, it felt like. And to me, that's telling me that Matt Eberflus is really good at defensive play calling, and he was maximizing potentially what he has in terms of the talent on the field. And I think it also exposed and revealed sort of some of the weaknesses in this roster, and especially on that side of the ball. So I will be very interested to see how they adjust because, oh, by the way, Sam Darnold threw 5 touchdowns this weekend. So
Gervon Dexter going down hurt, I know too. Obviously we didn't mention that, and they're already thin on the D line. So there were a couple of injuries that did cause some things, but still unacceptable.
Unacceptable. All right, let's get a vibe check on, bear with me here, Caleb Williams / the offensive line and the state of that unit. Alex, you can start this one.
So on first watch, it seems like the offensive line has taken a ton of flack, especially when the Bears give up 5 sacks on third down, which is kind of crazy to say, like 5 third down sacks. But I actually think the Bears offensive line in pass pro maybe deserves a little bit more credit that they had been given, and maybe deserves a little less heat. And I once again saw a less decisive Caleb Williams against the 49ers. And this has been kind of a roller coaster, which again is something we expected, right? We expected these streaks of great play and streaks of not so great play. I don't think this is one of Caleb Williams' better days, and I think he could have maybe gripped it and ripped it a little bit more. There are times where you see guys open, and whether he's not seeing them or for some reason deciding to scramble instead, it looked a little bit to me like, I'm wary of saying this, looked a little bit to me like the end of the Justin Fields era in Chicago. Now, again, we expected these kind of peaks and valleys here. And this is part of the rookie experience where defenses are going to do things and it's going to be tough to react in the moment, et cetera, et cetera. There are going to be different challenges. And obviously the 49ers have some really high-level players on that defense to challenge a rookie quarterback. So to bring it back to the O-line, I think the pass pro was probably better maybe than they got credit for. The run blocking, though, is still suspect. You know, they are not making it easy on DeAndre Swift. Now, DeAndre Swift has to, at some point, make some guys miss, has to run through some tackles on his own. And I think there were 1 or 2 holes that he potentially missed. But the run blocking has not been good. DeAndre Swift not hitting 40 rushing yards for 3 games in a row. A lot of that's on the O-line. But Caleb Williams, I think, deserves a little bit of criticism for the sacks and for the poor play of the offense overall as well. So it's also kind of like my vibe check. I don't know what the vibe is, but curiously trending down. Like, I guess we're just riding kind of like a downturn, but maybe that was just a poor performance for Caleb Williams as he kind of tries to find those consistently good games.
Play.
Yeah. Offensive line, I think it's up and down unit. Darnell Wright did some good things. Braxton Jones, I thought, did some good things. Matt Pryor, to me, had one of his down games on the season. He just wasn't very good on the inside there. Coleman Shelton, not great either. The last 4 games, Bears running backs and wide receivers have 234 rushing yards. Right, that's 59 yards per game and 3.4 yards per carry. That is not good enough to win any games. When you have a young rookie quarterback, you got to be averaging at least a full yard more. You got to have a consistent running game to take some pressure off your quarterback. So you're not in these 3rd and long situations and where the defense knows, okay, they got to drop back and throw the ball. Now we're going to blitz them. And now Caleb's got to wait. He's going to get sacked. Caleb's got to do a better job of getting rid of the ball. I thought in the first half, like looking at it, it's like there's nothing that really stood out for Caleb. Like he should have hit that. I'm like, maybe escapability. If he had better escapability, getting away from some of these sacks, maybe he's got to take some more risks. I think Caleb was put in a bad spot. I thought he fought to the end. He had a couple of good throws to Rome Odunze, which I loved. I still think Caleb's going to be the guy. He has got a lot of work to do. He's got to work on consistency. Obviously, got to work on getting the ball out. And overall vibe check on the offensive line is we definitely need some interior line help. Center, right guard is 2 problem positions that I think the Bears really got to acquire somebody at in this offseason. And then as far as the quarterback, I think he is going to be the guy. He's still got work to do, a full offseason, and he will be better and be faster with his release. And I think you got to marry his feet and get his footwork better. And I am still high on Caleb Williams.
Anyone who is campaigning for Caleb Williams to shut it down is out of their mind. They are about to play 4 really huge games against really good teams that is all going to be experience for Caleb Williams. And I think I'm aligned with both of you in that I do think Caleb needs to get better at knowing when to get rid of the ball, knowing when to try and make a play downfield so that and if it's not there, throw it away so that your line isn't blocking for 7 seconds and you end up getting crumpled into a ball. Crumpled?
Yeah.
Crunched into a ball. So like, I just think there's a lot that Caleb can learn in the next 4 games in terms of how to take care of himself, how to protect himself, how to protect his line mate, like how to protect the guys on the line so that they're not like exhausted and have, the juice to get up and block for him again. And I think you want to see him be a little riskier with the football if there's an opportunity to try and make a play downfield and maybe it's there, maybe it's not there, maybe you don't feel great about it, but like it's 3rd down and you're going to punt anyway, like take a shot. Like let's try and make some of those big mistakes now when you don't care about winning these games. I mean, you care about winning them, but you're not going to the playoffs. So you're not really playing for wins at this moment. You're playing to get reps, to get experience, and to learn from everything that happens in these next 4 games. So my vibe check on Caleb and the offensive line is hang in there, buddy. Like just don't get hurt. Continue to learn, continue to make some really good decisions, and feel free to make some mistakes too. Like it's okay. And so that's sort of where I stand there. Okay, our last vibe check, because we're running out of time. Clay and I have to go here in a second. Our last vibe check, Clay, because I know you want to get something off your chest, but you want to give a vibe check on Ryan Poles.
Just a quick one. And I know you guys did this a couple weeks ago or last week or whenever you did it here on our charter podcast at CHSN. Ryan Poles, to me, I feel like has escaped a lot of blame. Do you remember when he traded a 2nd-round pick for Chase Claypool?
I do.
Do you guys remember what number of pick that was?
Number 32.
32. That was basically a 1st-round pick that you threw in the garbage. What could you have done with a 1st-round pick on your offensive line or defensive line? Those are things that make the difference in seasons, in games and seasons. You sign Nate Davis for $30 million. You make some of these calls, these moves. You're in the meeting room. You meet with 13 candidates for an offensive coordinator, 13, including your head coach right now. And you come out of there thinking Shane Waldron is the guy you want calling your plays. These are season and career-changing moves here. That's the guy that you sit in front of and say, I want to lead my quarterback. I want to lead my team. You're the boss. The head coach, no, you're the GM. You are the guy. You make that decision. The buck stops with you. So for me, vibe check, Ryan Poles, I started just going down this rabbit hole, just thinking about some of the stuff, some of the moves that he made. And yeah, he made the move with Carolina, but that goes to our boy Lovie Smith. He gave us that 1st pick. We could have made that deal. Everybody wanted that 1st overall pick for their quarterback. So he gets a little too much credit for that. And he made some questionable moves. And even the Montez Sweat trade ain't looking that great anymore. That was one of his best moves. Yeah, you paid him a boatload, but you also gave up a 2nd-round pick there for a guy that was going to be a free agent. Obviously, he might not have made free agency at that point. But just looking back, I think Poles should be under a little more heat than he is right now. And my vibe on Ryan Poles is, help me out here, Ruthie. It's worried
on the hot seat, on thin ice. That's the vibe, right? Like, I mean, I don't really know what is going to happen in these next 4 games for that to get better. Like, I think a lot has just been exposed, and Kevin Warren has sat in front of the room and he's told the world that Ryan Poles is the GM right now, and he's going to be moving forward. So I think this offseason is going to be crucial for the front office, for management, for the whole entire organization to pick the right head coach. And that's going to be the biggest move, and just stir up the trenches. And that those are going to be the 2 priorities this offseason for Ryan Poles. And I can promise you, he's probably already working on it, and he knows, I mean, you can tell that he knows based off of his body language and his demeanor in that press conference. So it's obviously, Clay, I love you to death, but like, I think there's a little bit right now of this, like, everyone wants to blame the next person. Like, no, Matty Eberflus is gone, so who are we going to blame now? Like, Ryan Poles, I think, like, it's like, like, who do we look at? You know, like, can't blame Thomas Brown because this is a bad situation, but, oh yeah, Ryan Poles, like, we could blame him. Like, I just feel that's sort of what it feels like, this panicky, like, you know, who can we fire next to me? And I just think that this guy's done a lot of good things, and there's been a complete roster overhaul. He's a first-time GM. As Kevin Warren reminded us, he's young. He's made some mistakes. Chase Claypool, mistake. I think trading Roquan Smith for the wrong second-round pick. Remember, there were two of the second rounders, and he got the wrong one. I think there are some mistakes, or the Nate Davis mistake. Like, Velus Jones, like, gave up on him. And that's okay. Like, he fought for it, gave up on it. He's good at admitting his faults, whether it may be at the right time or not. But he's also done a lot of really good things. And I think we need to just kind of try and stay even keeled, because these next 4 games probably aren't going to be very fun. But I also think everyone needs to wrap their head around the fact that the team president sat in front of the room and said, this guy's going to be here, so chill out, you know? Anyways, okay, we gotta move on here. Alex Shapiro, speed dating. What's the resume for potential Bears candidate to be the next head coach, Mike Vrabel?
Mike Vrabel, what a popular guy in Chicago social media as people look for the next head coach. Mike Vrabel, most highly associated with Bill Belichick and the Patriots dynasty. He won 3 Super Bowls there, playing linebacker, and he is a member of the Patriots Hall of Fame. However, he is actually a part of the Bill O'Brien coaching tree. He was the Texans linebackers coach for 2 years, and then he was the DC before he became the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. That is his only head coaching stint from 2018 to 2023, where he had a 54-45 record. He had 4 winning seasons to start and then 2 losing seasons to end. In the 4 winning season, he had 3 playoff appearances, and in one of those playoff appearances, they had 2 wins. So that's pretty good. He's the guy who passes the leader of men, the phrase that Ruthie Polinsky loves so much. The leader of men. He passes the.
Can't stand it.
Jennifer King, sorry, you are not going to be led by Mike Vrabel.
I mean, training staff, nutritionists, executives, like, when you're a head coach of an NFL team, you are a leader of an organization. There are women in that building. That's all I got to say.
So we're going to change it right here, right now, to leader of organization, program leader. He passes that
program
test.
Leader.
Absolutely.
Like that.
Absolutely. And what's also interesting is you have a guy in the building who you can ask about him. Kevin Byard, free safety for the Chicago Bears for a long time, was free safety for Mike Vrabel. And this is actually really interesting. I was looking at some old videos. Mike Vrabel's very first win as a head coach in 2018, he dialed up a fake punt pass for Kevin Byard, who was the up back in 2018. Byard threw a 66-yard touchdown in that game. Titans win. And afterwards, he was like, hey, coach, thank you for putting me in that position. Thank you for trusting me. And he's like, I got you. I totally trust you, Kevin. So I kind of want to talk to Kevin Byard about that. Hey, what did you like about Mike Vrabel, the program leader with the Tennessee Titans? So obviously he has success, right? He won a lot of football games. Where did things go wrong? Why did they fire this head coach who had a ton of success? What's interesting is he reportedly wanted full personnel control in the latter stages of his Titans tenure, and ownership disagreed. Now, this is from Diana Rossini, who at the time reported when the team was hiring Rand Carthen, he suggested this Carthen guy should maybe just be assistant GM. And again, like I've earned this personnel control, and that rubbed owner Amy Strunk the wrong way. So my question is, how is he going to mesh with president and CEO Kevin Warren, who is clearly extremely involved and extremely influential with football decisions? So that's just one thing that stands out to me. The other question is, who's going to be his OC? He is a defensive-minded guy. Now, his OC during the best years were Arthur Smith, who is now the OC with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have a top 10 scoring offense. It seems like Arthur Smith would probably stay in Pittsburgh, right? So The 2 years
Unless he
Arthur
gets
Smith
head coaching job, unless he might get some head coaching interviews this year. I mean,
he might.
The
2 years
might.
Arthur Smith is his OC. They have a top 10 scoring offense. Without
LaFleur too,
Smith,
right?
Yeah, Matt LaFleur was also his OC, but it wasn't that great. They were 27th or worse 3 times, and then they were 15th in that 4th season in scoring offense. So this is going to come up when we talk about Brian Flores, when we talk about, if we do get to Bill Belichick, if he doesn't take that UNC job and Bill Belichick makes it into this program. These defensive-minded head coaches, the question is going to be, who is your offensive coordinator, and can you keep them around? So again, with Arthur Smith, it works great. Without him, not so much. But he ticks a lot of boxes. Definite winner, Patriots way. Like Clay, I mean, you know all about that. Coming from that Bill Belichick program, proven program, obviously.
If you want accountability, he is your guy. That's
Exactly.
what we're looking for: a leader, accountability, hard-nosed. This is my way. This is how we're going to do it. You're taking accountability. I'm taking accountability. We're going to be working hard in training camp. Then that's your guy. My only question is, Alex, they said in the training camp, what's the most, or in the press conference, what's your most important thing? The development of their young quarterback. And who is he going to be able to bring with them? And that's the big question. And the question is, after that, you saw him. He lost Matt LaFleur and Arthur Smith. Will they be able to stay? Because first and foremost, you got to look out for Caleb Williams and see who he can put in to help grow and build and progress Caleb Williams.
That's another huge question, because what did he do with Marcus Mariota? He bailed on him for Ryan Tannehill. Now, Marcus Mariota and Malik Willis. Again, comparing Malik Willis and comparing Marcus Mariota to Caleb Williams, not exactly the same thing. That's not comparing apples to apples.
No.
But, it's a similar – he's got to have an answer for that question. Why didn't things work out with these developmental quarterbacks? Why did you pull the plug for Ryan Tannehill? It was obviously the right choice. Ryan Tannehill totally revitalized his career with the Titans. But he's got to have answers to those questions. So that's an excellent point, Clay.
Really good points. And I think that, as you guys mentioned, that's someone that fits the bill when you think about the description that Kevin Warren profoundly stated about all the things that they're looking for in a head coach. It feels like Mike Vrabel checks those boxes. Feels like he could handle sort of the pressure of this city and the criticism and the media, because that was certainly a weakness of Matt Eberflus. And you kind of saw it sort of trickle away at him. So I don't think you can lose the job search if Mike Vrabel is the head coach here. I think that's a really good hire. It's just going to be about all the little pieces and the details that fit in. Anyone? All good? We love that.
Yeah.
I know we.
I
kind of got a bullet here.
No, you're absolutely right. Like he's an excellent candidate. He gets talked about for a lot of reasons. He's a winner. And the accountability, the program leader, ticks all those boxes.
Came from Bill Belichick, grown in that system, and that's where he thrived. And I think it's just sort of a really interesting way of sort of modernizing that old school New England sort of hard coaching system into a modern day, maybe more. He's younger-ish, like relatively speaking,
49,
younger, 49. Okay, not even 50 yet. Yeah, not not a Pete Carroll or a Bill Belichick. This is someone coming in who I think can still relate to players and have conversations and be a good communicator. And he's going to say it like it is, which I think that's sort of what we're looking for here. So great stuff, guys. Alex Shapiro, Clay Harbor, you're the best. Thank you for your time. And thank you for listening to the Charter Podcast, brought to you by St. Xavier University. We'll see you back here on Friday.